Let's go to field dressing the game. So I told you the first thing you do is make sure the critter's dispatched. Don't walk up on it. If it's still alive and it's got antlers or horns or what have you and it decides to jump up, it's going to put a hurt on you. So make sure it's dead. Make sure the area around it is safe. If you don't have ropes and pulleys, you're not going to be able to pull it up in the air with what we call a single tree, which is a device that you hang the gambrels of the hind legs on, and it spreads the animal out, hangs it up in the air at standing chest level where you can work on the entire animal. But the next best thing is go ahead and do the animal on the ground where it is. You can use logs or rocks or what you have in the area or pieces of your rope to tie the legs so that it's directly on the center of its back, belly up, facing up, and you'd prefer to have the head in a slightly uphill upcline and the hindquarters in a slightly downhill upcline, downcline rather. Okay, so once you got if it's a really big animal, you may have to just do it where it is and work around the best you can. But if you're able to move it, go ahead and get it in that position. The three main things we have to remember during this whole process is we want to keep our meat clean, dry, and cool. Always remember that. Clean, dry, and cool. And clean, pretty obvious. We don't want bacteria and stuff. We don't want spoilage. Dry, because unless you have clean water, if you use stream water, stuff like that, it can have biological agents or bacteria, viruses, what have you, and we don't want to get that in the meat. And cool, obviously, because we don't want heat will cause rapid fermentation and spoilage. The internal organs of the animal are only connected basically at three places in the entire animal: at the larynx and the throat pipe, and at the diaphragm around the midsection of the animal just at the base of the rib cage, and at the anal canal on the exit of the animal. So what we have to do is expose those three places, cut them free from those three places, and we can pull out the entire internal organ system in one fell swoop. Well, being careful through this whole process not to puncture the intestines or the bladders. We don't want to get any fecal material, and we don't want to get any urine material inside the body cavity because it can spoil meat.
Number 1, make an incision near the animal's anus. Number 2, lifting with the knife and pushing the intestines and stomach away with fingers, cut through the hide all the way up to the breastbone. Number 3, cut the windpipe and the esophagus in the upper neck. Number 4, slice through the meat between the hind legs and cut the pelvic bone. Number 5, cut around the anus. Number 6, reach up into the chest cavity and grip the esophagus, windpipe. Work loose the internal organs by cutting the diaphragm around the inside of the rib cage. Number 7, slide the entire organs out of the body cavity. Number 8, drain the body cavity and prop it open to allow cooling. Note, hunters, be sure to leave sex organs attached to the carcass in areas requiring proof of sex.
So we'll make that cut. You may have to use your other hand to keep some of the organs. They're going to have a natural tendency to want to rise up and come out of the hole. And be advised, there is a strong pungent smell that accompanies opening up the organ cavity of practically every animal. And it is very similar smell almost in every one of them. And it's not particularly pleasant. I've cleaned dozens of animals over the years. I don't particularly like it, but I just ignore it and get the job done. And once you become proficient at this, you could do it rather quickly. And by the way, if you have a knife like this that has the hook, all you have to do is take it and stick it inside the body cavity, underneath everything you want to cut, and just pull. And it will do it without having to worry about puncturing the organs or anything else. It's designed to do that. You want to be careful not to get the heart dirty, and be careful not to get the liver dirty. They're both edible. And if you're in a survival mode, you probably want to consider saving the stomach and the bladders, because you can use them for water carriers, for water containers. If you don't have a canteen or something, they make a very good water jug or water container. So, okay, then once you've done that, then it's just a process of skinning the animal, which is basically you're just going to cut the hide off. If you can hang the animal, it's a lot easier, because you start around the legs and you cut the hide loose from the legs. Once you get the hide completely off the hindquarters and the legs and from around the buttocks of the animal, you'll find that you can grab the hide and try not to cut it up and tear it up too much, because you might want to use the hide if you're in a survival mode for shelter or even for some type of clothing. You can tan it with the brain material. Every ungulate has enough brain material in it to tan a hide. Once you scrape the fat and everything off the hide and dry it, you could use the brain material to tan the hide, and you can use it for a garment or for a tent roof or something to shed the water fur out. Anyhow, once you get the hide completely off the hindquarters and the legs in one piece and pull it down, once you get down to below the rump, you'll find that you can pull the hide off in one fluid motion, and it will pull all the way down to the shoulders, and then you'll have to work it off of the front legs and up to the head area, and of course use your bone saw, your knife, and your bone saw to cut around to the down cleanly to the vertebrae and cut off the neck, and cut off down to the spinal cord, and then you can separate the vertebrae and take the head away. And then what you'll have hanging is a carcass with just the meat. And then you need to take a rag or a clean cloth. If you have clean water, you could rinse it out, but wipe the water out, the inside of the body cavity, and get all the blood and everything out. Now, while you're doing this whole process, if you're in a survival mode, you're going to have to do the best you can with the tools you have. But one thing I advise is you're going to get messy doing this task. What you don't want to do is get all your clothing and all your garments completely covered with blood, because then you'll have dried game blood all over you, and you will smell like something good to eat to predators. So strip down to your t-shirt or your long johns or what have you, or a pair of shorts or whatever you have, because you're going to get messy doing this job. Do the job, then clean yourself with whatever water we have available, and then get back in your clothes to handle the meat. From that point on, it's a matter of separating muscle groups and putting them on the fire and cooking them and eating it. If you're stranded in the wilderness, you'll figure out how to get the meat off, and you'll figure out how to get it cooked and ate, and we'll talk about how to start a fire later. Now, if you're a hunter, at this point, obviously, you're going to take your bone saw and you're going to split with your bone saw, either your Wyman saw or this type of saw. You're going to split the backbone all the way down the center into 2 quarters. Or if you're close to transportation and game and you're not going to pack it out, you take it out whole, you'll put a game bag on it, you'll take it to the thing, to the butcher or to your own meat locker. But otherwise, you'll split it down the center from the tail down, and then you'll take your saw and your knife and you'll cut it from about the second rib up to the spinal cord and cut through the spinal tract vertebrae, and you'll have 4 quarters. And if you got to carry it away as you want to quarter it, you want to split it down the center with your saw, directly down the center of the vertebrae, cutting through with your saw, and then cut from the second rib on both sides and take those 4 quarters, put them in game bags if you have them. If you don't have game bags and you have some pepper, while you're doing a really big animal, if there's a lot of flies and a lot of bees, you could take black pepper, handfuls of black pepper, and just literally douse it all over the exposed meat, and the flies hate it. They won't come anywhere near it. Now the bees will come in and they'll cut pieces of meat, and they'll ignore it. It won't bother them a bit. So you have to be careful when you're cleaning the game, because it's not uncommon. I've been stung many times. You'd be working on an elk or a moose or something, and there's lots of bees in there, and they're cutting pieces of meat, and you grab a hold of one of them the wrong way, not seeing them, and they'll sting the heck out of you. We'll cover a bunch more stuff later, and if you got any questions, just put them in the comments section, and I'll try to answer them. I hope you found this useful. Survival Part 1, Field Dressing Game. Pappy Stu said it, and I'm out and on the side.